recording. It tells me we're recording, so I guess it makes it official. We're off and running. Welcome to April 24th BDCC Business Resiliency webinar. Thank you for attending. I'm going to keep these comments really brief, just say welcome, and I'm going to toss it to Sarah Lang, who will just, as we always do, provide a real brief overview of Zoom in case you happen to be new to the environment.
Great, thank you. So for those of you who haven't used Zoom or need a little refresher, please keep yourself muted. If you're not speaking, that just keeps things down. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Right next to that is the video. If you don't want anyone to see you, please turn that off or turn it back on. If you want to chat during the meeting, please use the chat function. You can either send an individual message privately to someone or to the whole group. And then lastly, if you click on the participant list at the bottom of that, you'll see a raise hand function, and we'll utilize that if there's something you want to share with the group. Please use that button. I think that's it.
Okay, awesome. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to begin with some opening remarks. The goal for today, as always, is to listen to some great updates from our federal delegation representatives, as well as our regional partners. Today, we're going to have a discussion similar to what we did last week, but so with area businesses that represent restaurant, lodging, some camping and events, and online consumer retail as well as wholesale, about how they're shifting. So, you know, how did that deliberation happen within the organization? What have they been thinking about, and how's it going? The purpose is really to help others potentially have insights into the way they could focus or shift. And potentially an indirect benefit might be one of the guests today has a fairly high level designation of a vendor credential within Amazon. So maybe that's something you're looking to explore. You know, that then you might know someone in the region who you could reach out to, at least have a high level conversation about what it takes to start pursuing that kind of activity. I also want to highlight that concurrently to this session, there's an ACCD town hall. And I'm just going to read this. This event will focus on the work of the Employer Financial and Technical Support Team, an action team of the Economic Mitigation and Recovery Task Force. So we don't know if that's going to be an ongoing or one-time meeting. I'm going to post in the chat the information about that. So if you want to jump ship and go check that out, please feel free to. And again, we'll keep our eyes on whether or not that's going to be a recurring meeting and pivot accordingly if that's necessary. You know, as I always do, I'm going to review the past weeks. This is week 6. First week we were getting our footing. Second week we had some introductions to the programs, the relief programs that were being introduced. Third week we looked at how to access those. Fourth week, we got technical with VTS BDC with regards to specific questions on those applications. Last week, we talked to some area businesses about how they thought about accessing those relief funds and their sort of decision-making around that. And today, as I've already mentioned, we're going to talk about shifts or pivots. Last week I spent some time going over what happened on this day. Today I'm going to feature only one. On this day in 1990, this one caught my eye, the Space Shuttle Discovery launched the Hubble Space Telescope, and that one caught my eye, obviously because we have in our region Omega Optical, and they contributed and continue to contribute to that project. Okay, just going to check. I'm going back and forth between my notes and Zoom itself. So I'm going to post in the chat a bulletin that was released by the SBA, and this is specifically around the PPP program. I would advise that you take a look at it. There's some useful information around the forgiveness portion and what are the eligible expenses and so forth. So that's useful. That was released earlier this week. The ACCD town hall I've already mentioned. I think it was just yesterday. The SBA is the state's SBA. The Vermont District Office is, I'm just reading, receiving a high level of phone and email volume due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to this situation, a free daily webinar from 9 to 10 a.m. Monday to Friday will be held to discuss SBA's Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan in advance. So the first webinar, I think, was this morning, and that will continue. So we'll also be monitoring those, but the address for those meetings I've just also posted in the chat. Okay, let's see. Now let's transition to some updates from our federal delegation representatives. I think it's Fauna, who is due to us. So it'd be great. Sarah's going to unmute you, and we'd love to hear an introduction and maybe some updates.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Fauna Hurley, and I'm Congressman Peter Welch's new business liaison as of about 2 weeks ago. So it is quite a time to start this position, but I work with a great team, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you. So just a quick update from our standpoint. Of course, yesterday, Congressman Welch went down to DC to vote, and some of the just main takeaways from that bill are that an extra $310 billion were added to the PPP program, and $30 billion of that is reserved for community-based lenders, including small banks and credit unions. Another $30 billion for medium-sized banks and credit unions. They were also able to secure another $75 billion to provide resources to the front lines, including PPP equipment, and another $25 billion for testing. Unfortunately, the administration has not agreed to add more funding to state and local governments. So at this time, that the funding that's going to the state governments is tied directly to direct COVID relief. So Congressman Welch is well aware of the need for more flexibility there, but he's working hard to make some of these changes. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
I also see Chris Saunders. Hi, Chris. You're unmuted.
Hi, folks. Yeah, so Fauna very ably detailed what was in the bill. I think there's some important things that were not, that we have heard from many of you and your counterparts around the state. There were really not very many policy changes in this package. The one that made it in was making agricultural entities eligible for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So as soon as that passes, SBA, in addition to opening up their portal to accept applications, should be modifying the application so that you shouldn't have to tick whether you're a agricultural entity or not. You should just be straight up eligible. So that's certainly positive, but things around changing the forgiveness window, eligibility for other types of entities, making VITA eligible to lend more to Vermont institutions. A host of those things did not make it in. And so we are trying to figure out how best to have Senator Leahy advocate for those changes, because we know that Vermonters are starting to receive their PPP loans and aren't sure what to do if they're a restaurant or a business that's closed and needs to start thinking about how it's going to have that loan forgiven by bringing back employees and paying them. And SBA still has some more work to do to get guidance out on this. They've done some good work, but I think there's really more clarity that's needed. And we really would love to see some flexibility so that once the orders are lifted on which businesses can be open, that Vermonters are fully able to take use of the program as it was intended. I think just the one other piece to flag, there are starting to be some questions around eligibility for the program. I hope that that would not impact most of the folks on this call if you have a PPP that has come to you, but we've been hearing from nonprofit housers, for example, that did apply and have been received funding and aren't sure whether they are actually eligible to use the money. And SBA, kind of at their highest level, is sorting through that. We've gotten some clarity that hemp businesses, if you indeed only work with hemp and with CBD, not with marijuana, that you can participate in the program. I know that had been a question on one of the first session that we held a month or so ago. So questions around eligibility still coming up, and we're trying to help folks sort through those. I would really direct you to the events that RT mentioned at the beginning. Despite Darcy Carter, the district director in Vermont, very generously offering her email on all these statewide town halls, she's just overwhelmed with the incoming, and I think a lot of people are asking the same questions. So participating in those rather than sending her an email asking what your specific question might be would be a good thing to do. Last update on EIDL, SBA has been continuing to process applications. We know there's a high level of frustration from people saying, I've applied, I'm getting no information. Where do I stand? I call the hotline, I wait in the 200-person line, and I still don't get the info. Those applications that had gotten in before the window closed are still being processed. They should continue now that the money is there. But the district office in Vermont and us at the delegation level really have no ability to see inside the box to understand where you are in line. It's completely controlled by the Atlanta office of the SBA disaster team. And despite folks here asking to be trained and participate in the program, nobody can tell. No, they're not allowed to do that. And so we just don't have insight into where you might be if you have a pending application. So, the best we can offer is hang tight, and we really expect those applications to be starting to be funded over the next week.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it very much. A couple notes in the chat. Yes, Tracy, I mentioned at the top of the session that ACCD is doing something right now. I posted the link if anyone's inclined to jump over there to check it out. We don't know if it's going to be recurring, but we'll keep our eyes on that so that there's not overlap. And if we need to pivot, we'll pivot. Adam has posted the press release on the newest order from Governor Phil Scott, which talks about a continued phased reopening. So take a look at that. And Adam also says we have requested ACC to let us know if they intend to host again at 2. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on that. Okay. Are the regional delegation members? I see Tristan. Yes. Thank you. Hi, Tristan. How are you?
Hello. Sorry I'm late. I just sort of snuck in here at the last second.
Okay.
I haven't even had a chance to kind of get my bearings to see who else is on the call. The two crucial things that I would share that we've been sort of touching in on each week is how is the unemployment insurance process working, and then the new pandemic unemployment insurance for contractors and sole proprietors and that sort of thing. In theory, the governor and his team cleared a logjam over the weekend, but I will say from some constituent emails and frankly from my own parenting role that doesn't appear to be actually accurate. I say that only because I think my son is 50 calls in after waiting a month from a group layoff that he was a part of and still unable to get information. So I'm not, the data that the legislature has received and the anecdotal stories don't match up. And so we're continuing to monitor that and see what on earth is going on there. The website was launched this week and was accepting applications for the special support for sole proprietors and self-employed. And I've seen mixed stories about how well that is working. Would love to have any feedback that comes in from this call if there's specifics that I can pass along. It's really brand new in the implementation, and so obviously we're going to be monitoring it closely. And I did have some feedback from some people that they were very successful. It was very straightforward. Everything worked just fine. And other people who say it doesn't work at all. It fails every time and it's totally confusing and you can't reach anybody to get help. So that all of that is, I'm afraid we're still kind of in this world of not having the right kind of stories and information that we want to have, of clear success, of everybody getting caught up, and of people who are eligible getting all the help they need. And it is a big concern, but there's not much that we can do other than continue to put the pressure on the governor and his team to identify where the problems are, and then do anything that needs to be done on the back end, on the legislative side, to support them if there are legal changes that need to happen. But mostly this is operational in nature, and it's a function of capacity and of old systems. And so hopefully we'll turn the corner soon and I'll be able to report that that's really behind us. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll keep an eye on the chat. Okay, just going to refer back to my notes. And Pat, I see that you had a customer at your door picking up book orders. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Okay, I'm gonna transition to the panel discussion and introduce the folks who have so kindly agreed to step into this with me. So first we have, let's see. Sorry, just getting organized here. David Heiler from, he's the founder of the Whetstone Brew Station and Campfires Campground in Dummerston. So that represents a retail restaurant operation as well as a lodging in the form of a campground. We have Susan Mcmann, who is the executive director of the Landmark Trust. Susan was formerly with the Wyndham Regional Commission running the Brownfields program as well as other activities. So Landmark Trust is lucky to have Susan. Landmark Trust USA is a nonprofit organization that preserves historic properties and makes them available as short-term vacation rentals. So clearly that operation has been impacted. Ned Wilson, staying with the lodging theme, is he runs the Mountaineer Inn. It's right at the foot of Mount Snow. The inn sits on 12 acres of land formerly owned by the Cole family as part of their farm. Today is a 10-acre meadow with gardens, gazebo, lap pool, and was previously a field for growing hay. So in December of 1993, after successful careers in New York City, Royal and Ned Wilson purchased the inn and continue to own it to this day. Also with us is Don and Donna McFadgen. They're founders of Custom Catch in Dover. Custom Catch is a family-owned Vermont company that focuses on making it easy for customers to purchase and rapidly receive high-quality, unique, personalized products for their families, pets, and homes. And when I referenced there would be someone on today that has, some certain level of Amazon vendor credential, that would be Don and Donna. And then also is Chris Thomas, who is the founder of Good Body Products, which makes small batch plant-based therapeutic body care products using locally sourced ingredients. So I appreciate everyone joining us. Thank you. Now gets the technical tricky part where we have to be coordinated about unmuting folks. I think we'll start with David Heiler. And David, the question that I've posed to you folks to think about a little bit is what you've had to do to think about in terms of shifts or pivots. The collection here is across a couple of different industry segments. So I think it could be, my hope is that it's informative to folks, but it's not only what you've actually chosen to do, but how did you go about making those decisions? Do you have a team? Is it just you sitting in your room with a whiteboard, or do you have, somebody that you bounce ideas off of? So I'm trying to get into, what were the motivations, and what drove you to make those shifts, and then in the end, how's it going?
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So we are owned by, there's 3 owners. We own all 3 of our 3 different entities. We own the Whetstone Station Restaurant and Brewery. We own the Whetstone Brewery, which is on Frost Street. And we also own Campfires Campground, which is in Dummerston, right on Route 5. All 3 of us own that equally. And so we make all decisions together equally. My partners are Tim and Amy Brady. They're married, but generally one of them will side with me, so it's not a bad partnership. We've looked at this sort of, and I hate to even say this, but as an opportunity to reassess what we are and who we are, and oftentimes when we talk about our business and where we're going, because it ebbs and flows and morphs, we talk about what is the core of our business, what is it that we do. And in the case of the restaurant, we see ourselves as a badass brewery, and yet on Saturday afternoons we're more like Chuck E. Cheese. So we sort of tried to look at this as a getting back to what is our core business and what we do, and we have kind of decided to make this more of a brewery operation and shy away from the full service restaurant model. I won't blow the whole story here, but the surprise. But we're thinking of this as an opportunity to cut back on. We have a massive payroll, and we are looking at this as a chance to minimize or lessen our payroll somewhat, cut back on the headaches that we have, and streamline our operation into highlighting the beer that we make in our brewery on Frost Street and selling that in our restaurant operation. So that's that one. In terms of the brewery, we just got a distribution contract with Craft Brewers Guild. We're very happy about that. So, we're looking to sell more beer outside of the restaurant and sell it at our campground, sell it on our food truck, and that's the goal with that. As far as the campground goes, we think that campgrounds are going to be a fairly popular thing to do in this. It is, in the age of COVID and people having their own Winnebagos, if you will, your own home, traveling home. I think people will see this as a great opportunity. So we're going to shore that up and really push the campground as a place to come and socially distance, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Next up to be put on the spot is Susan Mcmann. Oh, she's just coming back.
Yeah, I had to tell a son to stay out of my room. My room
Co-workers.
Yeah.
Co-workers.
Oh, right. Co-workers. They're on vacation right now. So I'm Susan Mcmann. I'm the executive director of Landmark Trust USA, which I think RT did a good job. Our claim to fame, we own 5 properties in Vermont, and we're just about to open up our 6th in Rhode Island. Which has been postponed a little bit. But really, we offer, it's a stewardship model. It's a way that we can protect these important historic properties by using the overall stays to go back into the properties and maintain them. So it's another way to do historic preservation. We're based on Landmark UK that some of you might know. And they have over 250 properties. We're not quite there. I don't know if we'll ever be there, but we are growing. And Rhode Island is the next area that we're growing in. We also are 100%, so we're a nonprofit that also owns a profit farm, Scott Farm. And that is 100% owned by Landmark Trust, but it's a business. And we're working that through as well. We've had some changes at Scott Farm, but it's still too soon to say about Scott Farm, but that was good news about USDA loans available, or we'll be able to do some agriculture. But I think you really wanted me to focus on Landmark Trust because of the stays. So like everyone else, I kind of first was, and I have a board that I can consult with. So that's kind of who I've been working with, my board and my staff. But I've also, first took care of getting our PPPs in and our EDIL, which is in that big vacuum where if they'll ever show up. But then I started saying, okay, it's time, to begin to figure out what next. How do we get ourselves ready? We feel that our properties being kind of like what David was saying, we feel like our properties being a short-term rental, whole house rental, we think we'll start getting business back. We've had some cancellations because we have a lot of international travelers coming to our properties. In particular, Nalaka is very, we get a lot of British and people from India and Canada coming to that property. That's Rudyard Kipling's house, for those that don't know. So now, we're just beginning to think it through. And I took this webinar by Visit New England that was really helpful. And I suggested to RT that we might want to get this person to speak to us. His name was John Derby. I know some of you might know him. What he had to say was coming at a perfect time, because I was just now trying to figure out how to start getting our business back, other than, so I thought when I spoke to RT, I thought I would just mention these few points. They make a lot of sense. And this is really, I've been working with my marketing consultant, which is Bobolink out of Saxton's River. Madeline's on the call today. Madeline, there she goes. And so one of the things that he said is throw out your marketing plan. It's not the same, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this already, but instead try to market in 2 weeks periods, because things keep on changing. So that's what we've started to do. And the other thing is you need to become a trusted source and advisor. Now, I'm a nonprofit, so we want people to understand that we are a trusted source on historic preservation and wonderful places to visit. But so we're beginning to kind of tell that story. And the other thing is you need to show authenticity and empathy, and also marketing extreme safety. So then that comes the whole house rental. And we're also well known as really clean establishments. So, and he also said, it's not a time for hard sell. This is not a time for 25% off and you can come stay at our properties. Don't be doing that. So how are we going to do it? And this is a lot of it's social media that they're recommending, because just like, me, I'm on the computer a lot, and I am taking advantage of virtual events. So the first thing he said, which was something that my marketing consultants wanted us to do anyway, we just got a new website, was really begin to blog more. And he said that was the most important thing for us to be doing. I thought that was interesting, and I still don't understand how, but Madeline tells me that that's a good suggestion. And because we were dealing with changes at the farm and changes at staff, we hadn't really been using our Facebook, and we have a quarterly newsletter and hadn't been using it. So I need to get back into, blogging and social media, but really begin to tell a story. And so when I talk about the 2-week period, we're planning those 2 weeks of what we're going to say. We've cut back on printed ads. Because except for there's 2 standbys that we feel like are really, really good, which is National Trust for Historic Preservation magazine that has always brought us in a lot of stays, as well as Yankee magazine. But those feel like those are things that sit on people's counters and people read them. So we feel good about those. So we reviewed our, but we are going to do a little bit of virtual tours of our properties, because our properties are so gorgeous, and just trying to remind people that we'll be here for you when you're ready to travel. We do have a fundraising event that we've just decided to cancel. We kept on holding off, hoping, but we had an event for mid-June called the Rhododendron Tour, which has been a really successful, easy event for us because we have this wonderful rhododendron tunnel. So we're going to be working to turn that into something virtual. It will probably not bring the same amount of fundraising, but it will help us point out what beautiful properties we have. And so we'll see how that works. That's a new, a lot of other places are doing that as well. Then the last thing, and I'm sure you all have probably heard this as well, is that we're Vermont, and when you're marketing that we're safe and we have open spaces, because that's one of the things, our properties have trails around them. So people can really come and be with their family and just enjoy the property without having to see everybody else.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Susan. And just so you know, I did bring up the person you'd referenced, which leads to a larger discussion. But yeah, that's awesome, and I appreciate it.
And I meant it, and I'll send you that information. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, thank you very much. So some great suggestions. I really like the 2-week. In the technical world, they call them sprints. So these, I guess, would be marketing sprints instead of coding sprints for social media. Okay, so Don and Donna McFadden. No, I'm skipping. Sorry. Staying on hospitality. Ned Wilson from the Mountaineer. Let's get you unmuted and hear about I don't know if traditional inn is the correct word, but it's a classic ski resort right there by Mount Snow. How are you today? Oh, something's not working. Shoot, we can't hear you. Oh, he's muted again. Hold on. Let's unmute him. Hold on, Ned. Can you try to say something? Can't hear you.
Maybe you should call in.
Yeah. Would you mind posting the call-in number for him,
Yep.
Sarah? And I'll jump ahead to Don and Donna McFadden. I'm going to go ahead and mute him again. Oh, I lost Don and Donna. Where'd they go?
They're unmuted.
My eyes are getting lost in the Brady Bunch squares. So okay, I found you. So as I said, Donna have a business in Dover. It's an online consumer retail. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you've been thinking about shifting, or you have shifted, and how's that been going?
Sure. We do personalized products, and virtually all of our business is Amazon. We do a chunk of it through our own website, eBay, and some other places, but very heavily Amazon. We are also a Prime seller, so we have a challenge of timeliness for everything. We have to, if an order comes in at 2 p.m., we have to have it out the door by 3. So that adds a little bit of a twist to things at a time like this when you can't really very easily plan, flows and so on. But for us, the changes that we've been making is, well, right off the gate, out of the gate, we have kids home from school. So we enslaved all of our children and put them to work pretty heavily, trying to get shipping done when we didn't have staff. That's changing a little bit. So, and the other thing we've done to accommodate that is we narrowed our product line. We have probably 10 different areas that we focus on, and we narrowed it down to 3 that were the easiest for us to ship and get out the door on time and all of that, and profit wise do better for us. So temporarily we narrowed what we're actually selling, and that has helped a lot to keep up with volume. Volume online is actually good because people are home, and that's where they have the opportunity to shop. So it's actually quite good. And I think if we were fully operational, it would actually not be a bad time at all. But we are, struggling with, what we can do. The other change is that, we've made space changes to allow more space between people in the office, and we're planning a new day that runs. We used to run about 7 hours a day operationally, 7 days a week, and now we're going to be extending that to 12 hours to have more space between people. And by being able to do the work over 12 hours, it just means a very early start, but it at times like this, you just adjust. The other, as a business, the way we're adapting, as well as we're looking at what channels we've ignored, because for us, Amazon has grown very rapidly, but it is a very finicky beast. It's very tough to maintain the extreme metrics that you have to maintain for the privileges we have. And so it's a very demanding taskmaster that you work for. And there are probably better channels out there. And we're spending some time looking at those. Google Shopping is one that we've ignored a lot, but we know has a ton of promise. And we've actually done some of it, and it actually is, not just reading about other successes, we're seeing some there. And we've also done, before this all started, we did some dog shows just to test how well our products resonated with breeders. And what we found was it didn't fit as well there, but we did discover that dog shows are very desperately looking for awards to give away that we're a perfect fit for. And so there's a whole circuit of dog shows, and every one of them wants you to, wants to buy 25 awards for a show. So that's another area. And we've also looked at the building industry for, point when remodeling and building is able to really kick back in. And we are also able to make larger designs that we can put into tile to be part of a flooring. So all of those areas are areas that we're using the time to maybe not reinvent, but at least expand what we do today, and expand it in a way that sort of balances the very demanding, very very difficult to schedule bulk of our business. So that's essentially what we've been doing with the time, and we've been working 7 days a week, and which is not a bad place to be, considering other alternatives. So
yeah, well, thank you so much. I appreciate those insights. I feel like as you said, the taskmaster of Amazon could be a whole webinar in and of itself. So
definitely
be on the watch out for that one. And you folks are a couple, and you run your business, which is not uncommon. So in 7 days a week, that's a lot. I hope everything's going well. Okay, so yeah, Ned, let's try to go back to Ned to see if his.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can. There's a little bit of an echo, but we'll get past that. I think your computer's volume might be up.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let me. There. Is that better?
Yeah, that's awesome. You sound great.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why all of a sudden my microphone is not working on the computer. I don't get it.
It's Murphy's Law. That's what happens when you're put on the spot. So tell us.
Well, in any event,
please.
Let me just say a couple of things about lodging. Not all lodges are the same. And we are a ski lodge, and almost all of our business are groups.
Oh.
So we get ski groups come up in the winter, and in the summer we do like weddings family reunions. We have motorcycle clubs that come. We have car clubs that come. We do a music festival. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. I really don't know. These are people who want to come and socialize. That's why they are coming. And this whole thing about you got to stay 6 feet away, well, I don't know how we do breakfast and tell everybody, sit at every other table by yourself. And how's that feel like being a group? So, we have questions as to whether or not any of this is going to be over until they have developed an effective vaccine, so that people are not concerned about whether or not they get the virus. And the other thing is, they talk about they have tests to determine whether you have it. Okay, they have tests to determine whether or not you have had it, but now are well, but they still don't have a test to say whether or not you're still infectious. Can you give it to somebody else, even though you're over it? And until they have a test that can do that, I don't know that people are going to feel comfortable coming together in groups. I don't know. I don't. My crystal ball is not that good.
Ned, let me ask: have you started to think about changing walking patterns and seating patterns, and if you're able to accommodate using techniques like that, or
well, yeah, we have thought about it. So, for instance, I don't know if you know the term triple seating. Is that familiar to you?
No.
Well, I mean, many years ago, I used to work for CBS television network, and I had occasion to travel to Los Angeles many times on business. And they were doing this out there 35 years ago. So you check into a hotel room, you have a bottom sheet, which covers the mattress. You have a top sheet. Then you put a blanket on. And then they would put a third sheet on top of the blanket, so that at no time did any part of your body ever come in contact with the blanket. Okay. And this was their way of saying, it doesn't matter who might have been in this room before you, it's safe for you to come and sleep here. You're not going to catch something that they left behind, okay? And I know that we've been talking about doing this here in Vermont for several years now. We haven't done it yet, but it's certainly something that we could do that would make people feel safe to go stay in a hotel. But when it comes to serving them breakfast, and particularly if they are a group, I suppose we could tell them, okay, we're going to have seating assignments. We want you to come at 7, and we want you to come at 8, and you to come at 9. And we could put them in the dining room so that everybody's at their own table and not sitting next to one another. And these are things that could be done. The question is the customer going to want to do that?
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. I am now looking for Chris from... Oh, Chris, there you are. Let's see. Chris
Howdy.
Thomas. Hey, can you hear us?
I can. Howdy, everybody.
Good. Yeah, I don't know if you heard me introduce the topic and the discussion. I didn't see you earlier. Were you here for that?
No, I'm wondering what I'm supposed to do here.
Okay. Yeah. So what I've asked of folks is to share what you've been thinking about in terms of how you're pivoting, and then not only what those shifts might be, but how you've come to consider those. And then, if you've actually implemented any of those shifts, how's it going?
Yeah, so just a little bit about us.
Yes, please.
We are also a mom and pop. It's me and my wife, and we run Good Body Products. We make therapeutic intended body care products and run a farm operation as well. We do CBD products. We grow our own hemp. We are USDA certified to do that. And um, we sort of see our products as falling in between necessity products and comfort products. So that was a little bit of a consideration for us. But in terms of what we do, what we did before COVID, we sell through our website. We sell to directly wholesale to retailers, and we sell through events, and the Brattleboro Farmers Market being one of the biggies for us. I happen to be right now president of the Brattleboro Farmers Market Board. So my days are extremely full between juggling my own business, all of the paperwork necessary for the funding things for my own business, compounded with, you know, the Agency of Ag just released the update for requirements for markets to open on May 1st, and our market is gung-ho to do so. So there's substantial work ahead of me today even. But in terms of our own business, we saw an immediate cessation of store orders when COVID hit. So we rely, it's almost a 50-50 between our site and our store orders. And that was a pretty scary moment to realize they're not coming back anytime soon. And so we have to adjust for this. So our plan, unlike perhaps the hospitality industry where you don't want to offer a discount for fear of like compromising your integrity, we immediately put a 15% off site-wide, and we're just running that indefinitely. And that has definitely helped our sales. We've seen a substantial uptick in website sales to the tune that we're starting to get back close to where we were at last year, which is really reassuring. Just in website, I'm not talking retail orders. And so that spilled over to, you know, in combination with things that we were learning from my experience in the farmer's market, how people are pretty desirous of having pickup availability. You know, in part of my research to get the Brat market online and looking at different hub distribution platforms and talking to a group out in Minnesota that's doing it pretty successfully with a platform called Local Line. I learned that as much as you may want to open a retail business, people have to want to go to it. And they saw that people are not, they have a situation where they have a live market and then a drive-through pickup only market. And they said that the vendors are basically wasting their time at the live market, that people want this security, so they're only doing the drive-through. So we did a pivot. We just purchased a Jamaica cottage to put down in front of our property as a pickup location / store. We are extremely excited about this because it actually, as things potentially open up, puts us into a position to offer light refreshment at the location on the Green River here. In addition, we've talked to a lot of local suppliers of different farm goods and craft goods that are finding it prohibitively priced to go through other food or goods hubs that are forming. Many of them charging as much as a 20% commission to have your goods at their location, in addition to handling charges. So we've talked to a number of different folks that are interested in having stuff at this location we're putting together, and it just seems pretty seamless for us in terms of expanding operations in that sense. So this is, you know, mighty new ground for us, and it's exciting. As David said, used the word opportunity, And I know that he meant that without a taking advantage of a situation type approach. Just, you know, how do we get the most and keep our business afloat using the smartest mechanisms? And I would say that the biggest thing that I could offer is that online ability to be able to be online and sell online. Obviously, I would think most businesses here are doing that already, but if you're not, that's step one, obviously.
Chris, wow, thanks so much. I did not know about your involvement with the Brattleboro Farmers Market, so that was an added bonus for me to have those insights. So different communities have different zoning requirements. So I would imagine, I think you said the Green River, so you must be in Guilford, so therefore the zoning must be supportive of your being able to do that kind of work, which is fantastic. Other towns have more restrictive zoning.
Yeah, we're very lucky. Guilford is good with it, but we do have to investigate with the state what we're able to do fully.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, I think we can open it up for questions. A theme that I noted from a comment that Ned made, a comment that Chris made, and I think Susan touched on this too, is people need to feel comfortable, you know, engaging in these activities, whether it's going out to eat, going to an inn. And I think that's something maybe the Wyndham Economy Resiliency team might be also thinking about. So how can Southern Vermont as a whole sort of communicate that, you know, we're doing what we should be doing to make people want to come back and feel safe. But so if there's any other questions, and even if it's a B2B type question, I think this is a unique opportunity for us to connect you folks as entrepreneurs. You know, if you're comfortable asking a question to someone specifically, I would encourage that. If you aren't comfortable doing that, I'm more than happy, you know, to set up by email a connection if you've heard something and you want to connect with one of the folks who have spoken here. But are there any questions from you folks about anything you've heard thus far? David, I see you have your hand up. Let's see, Sarah, I'm assuming, I don't want to do double duty with Ken Moody. There you go.
Like this? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to point out a couple things. And one was, Ned, yeah, you talked about the triple sheeting. And, you know, I think the AAA requirements have always been there for 4-diamond properties, but I think like all properties are destined to do that. That's a really good point, and something that, you know, we're headed towards safety standards in every business that we have now that are not going to change. I mean, I think that this is something that's going to stick around forever. And I also didn't want to sound like Attila the Hun before when I talked about, you know, cutting staffing levels. It's not, you know, that we want to get rid of a bunch of staff. It's as, and I think Tristan could speak to this, and Fauna maybe, but, you know, some of the requirements that when we reopen slowly here in Vermont and in other states is that, you know, we're going to have spacing restrictions. I think they're talking about 30% of your business, you know, in a restaurant situation that is going to be, you know, you have to eliminate. And so, you know, we're right out of the gate, we're going to have to cut back on what we are able to do. And I think also going forward, you know, we're going to open our doors with a full staff to resounding silence. I mean, people aren't just going to go flocking to our businesses. Lastly, and to Chris's point too, I mean, you know, people are getting used to to-go, they're getting used to delivery. You know, Brattleboro didn't have any kind of delivery service, and we're going to have delivery here in Brattleboro as of, you know, next month. I'm pretty, whatever, you know, it's going to be. And we need to be ready to do that, because that's going to stick around for a long time. And don't poo-poo that kind of business, because it's, you know, it's good business. People love having their food delivered to their homes, and they love Netflix, and it's a whole new market. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Eli from Shapeshifters. And Eli, if you are inclined to just say a few words about the shifts that I know you have made, significant shifts that are, you know, sort of in a different direction than what you primarily focus on, but it'd be great to hear about it.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. had some troubles last time, so just let me know if I static out or anything. Hi, my name's Eli. I co-run Shapeshifters. We usually make custom-sized undergarments out of spandex. And like every other tailor and sewing person in the area, we are now making cloth masks. And we started by making them for free and just handing them to the hospital as fast as we could. And then it turns out we can't actually pay rent in masks, so we're selling them now. So as of, I think, God, was it only last week? Yeah, we started selling them last week. We put them on our regular online store and just made a little subcategory for, hey, this is what we're doing now. We're selling masks. Come get them. Like, I do want to say, to second the farmer's market note, that local pickup has been really key. People want to pick it up right now. The 2 days worth of post office processing when you're in the same town is not okay for a lot of folks. They just want to come by. So we have been working with that challenge and trying not to, you know, invite half the town over to our house to get it out of our mailbox. So that's been fun. The other thing that I would say has been really key for us in this pivot is that we have been trying to take care of our workers as much as possible. We're really small. We have 4 people. It's me and my wife and 2 employees. And our 2 employees have been working from home, and we've been working with them to support them in the conversion of making masks at home, which you can do on machines that are not the same as the machines we have here. And it's been really, really important to us to keep in close contact with them and to assure them that they're going to have a paycheck as long as possible, and also to keep in communication with them, because we were also one of those people, one of those companies who did not get a great time with the Paycheck Protection Program process. And so we had a yes, and then a no, and then a maybe, and then a we think so is our current application status.
Yeah.
So I've been in contact with our employees in accordance with this, like, hey, I think we can do this. It turns out we can't. It turns out we can. I just wanted to keep them updated the whole time, and they've been able to make adjustments in their lives accordingly when they thought maybe I'll have to go on unemployment. And it turns out they don't, which is great.
Great.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 things, really.
Great. Well, thank you.
I did have a question, though.
Okay.
Chris, are you still here? Is Chris from the farmer's market still here? I can't tell anymore. Yes, he is. Great. I wanted to ask, what online platform are you selling on, and do you like it? Because I know we heard about Amazon sales, and that doesn't seem like a great option.
We're working to unmute Chris.
All right, yeah, there I am. Hi, yeah, so in terms of the farmer's market or in terms of my business, Good Body Products?
If you can just drop some names of what you like, I'm sure they'd be helpful.
So here's one of the things for online that I encourage people with. The old paradigm of like, oh, I need to set up a shopping cart and have a developer and all that crap is gone. Like these platforms like Wix and Shopify, they've really made it extremely doable for a relatively tech savvy person. You don't have to be like a coder or anything. So Good Body Products runs on a platform called Big Commerce. It's very similar to Shopify. Me having some tech background, I was able to customize the template, so it's a little tweaked out, but their stock templates are really nice. You'd find a sort of equivalent thing with the platform Shopify. And the farmers market built their site. I actually built the site for them in Wix. And Wix does have a shopping, it's a business account that does have a shopping cart in it as well. So really easy to get your products in there, up online and available. There's usually a payment gateway such as Stripe or PayPal that will process your payments. I gotta say, it's much less of a headache than you would think.
It's awesome. Thank you, Chris. And thank you again, Eli. I love the real-time exchange of questions and answers between you folks. I want to ask if we're coming up on an hour. I want to encourage folks to email me directly. So it's rbrown@brattleborodevelopment.com for any future topics that you think would be helpful for us to put together. So either that email address or our general email box for COVID response, which is bdcc-covid19-questions@brattleborodevelopment.com. But we really want to make sure that we're delivering content that might be useful. And I really appreciate the panelists who have participated today. I've heard some really interesting things. Are there any last questions or remarks?
Tristan has his hand up.
Oh, Tristan, apologies. Didn't see that.
No problem. I just was going to comment, David had mentioned something that I thought was a really important point, which is that as commerce is allowed to open up in some ways with restrictions, that actually those restrictions are going to be asymmetrically impacting different types of businesses. And a business that has larger infrastructure, but that is inherently constrained in the kind of business volume or business throughput that it can do is going to have a harder time adjusting to being open in an in-between world. I think it's really important, David, and I appreciate you mentioning that. And it's something that I will bring back to our House Commerce and Economic Development Committee as we work with the administration on what this next phase looks like. Because that those costs, the cost to really maintain a large infrastructure, are not always going to be capturable with a smaller business. You might be able to open at a loss, and is that really a better environment than waiting it out? And so these questions will be very different depending on the sector of the business. But I really appreciate you surfacing it, and I'll bring it to the policy level.
Well, thank you for that. And again, thanks everyone for attending today, and especially to our panelists and anyone who contributed. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on that ACCD webinar to see if there's going to be overlap on a week-to-week basis, and we'll adjust accordingly, or one of us will adjust accordingly. But we certainly don't want to keep people from important information as it's being disseminated. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Try to get some rest. And have a great week until I see you again next week. Take care.